and Principal, School of Management, Architect Shankar, Principal of Architecture, panel members, all faculty members of Vagaman and Trivandrum campus, students and alumni, and all DCs for the today's webinar. There will be question and answer session after the speech. Students can send your questions directly to panel members, or you can ask questions directly by asking panel member to open your mic and video. Now I welcome our Chief Guest Ms.Ashwini Nachappa to deliver keynote address. Please, ma'am.
A very good evening to the entire management of the DCS School of Architecture and the other streams, to the deans of the school, of the college, to the faculty members, to all the students, to the alumni. First of all, let me thank Geetika for introducing me and welcoming me to this seminar. It's always a pleasure to talk to young children. On this occasion, I can only speak about my experience and my journey as the person and the athlete that I, became, and the experiences that I have gathered along this journey through the field of athletics in the last 20, 30 years, not just as a competing athlete, but also as an administrator, is something that I'd like to share with all of y'all. Because the learning from it, as I call it, my mantras, may relate to some of the things that, in hindsight, when you look at your journey, may connect some of the dots. I started out as a young athlete at the age of 8 or 9 years old. And in that journey, not knowing what sport was, but merely enjoyed being on the field, enjoyed running, so to speak, in the school when I was growing up as a young child in Calcutta, because my dad was working there. I always remember the fierce competition, even though we were in UKG, LKG, or first standard, it was always to beat the boys in whether gathering the biscuit that was strung, running and beating them was always a thrill. And I think when I moved down to Calcutta, I owe it to my mother, who never allowed us to play on the streets and would take us to a stadium, an athletic stadium, which was close by to the house, so that we could spend our quality time in watching and also playing some kind of a sport and physical fitness. Though my mother was never an athlete, but the kind of, she believed that physical fitness is very, very vital for any children growing up. And that's how my life started as a young athlete, where from beating the boys to collecting chocolates for every round I ran as an 8-year-old child, to start collecting more number of chocolates. And now when I look back at my life and I think, what have I learned from it? So in hindsight, they always say it's 2020. So in hindsight, I think the first very important thing for all of you as young students is finding the right interest. What is it that interests you the most? Because everybody gives you a piece of advice. We often hear this, follow your passion. But I believe that finding the right interest in the things that you enjoy doing the most, passion automatically follows. Passion and interest both drive action. But what is important in that action is how you address each step of that action is very important. I personally believe that focusing on our interest and not on the outcomes, focusing on the process rather than the outcomes, we then get engaged in ourselves, in believing that we are capable of doing it. And more often than not, we are capable of handling disappointments and failures along that journey. No journey of any person, whether they are famous or not, are without failures, without disappointments. And so as a young child, I learned that interest because there was always a fierce, uh, you know, not just an inherent competitive spirit, but the enjoyment of playing the sport on the field was great. So for all of you as young children, I think it's very, very important to find the right interest in whatever field you want to progress in. And when you have that interest, the action and the passion will automatically follow. The second point that I would like to say is, when I started out as a young child and started winning small school championships, then the Karnataka school championships, and it one after the other, you start dreaming of becoming something. Because then at 8 years old, you really don't know what an Olympic Games is, what an Arjuna Award is. But as you start achieving small, results, then you start also getting, especially with the people that you are around, they kind of guide you to a place where you can start dreaming then. So I started dreaming of representing the country at the Olympics. Little did I know that the journey would take many more years, after that. So once, I think it's important for me as an athlete at that point of time, when the mind can conceive it and your heart believes that you are capable of doing it, there is no question in my mind that you cannot achieve it. So always it is about conceiving the idea, dreaming the bigger picture all the time, believing in yourself that you are capable of doing it, and then you follow that interest, follow the process of that interest, you will be able to achieve that. I say this because, as I said, I started out as a Bangalore school champion. And I was very fortunate that I had a group of teachers, including my PE teachers, my principals in school, teachers who at that point in time gave a lot of encouragement to all of us as young children. And we were looked upon in the school as somebody who was achieving at different levels. And they gave that kind of pat, which was very, very essential for that journey to continue. So every race from then on that I ran became the most important race for me. It's not about winning at the nationals. And I think the process, that's why I tell all the young children today, because we are living in a world where everybody wants instant success, and really do not focus on the process of that journey. And I think every small step to go to the topmost step, the very first step is important. So every step that you take, for me, it was every race that I ran, whether it was at the district level, whether it was the state level, whether it was at the national level. Make everything, give that 100% in everything that you do. That is the most important. So every step that you do, you need to give your 100%. And for all this to happen, the very important thing is to plan. When you conceive the idea, when you conceive something that you want to achieve, it's about planning and practicing hard. And when I say plan, for all of you, it is important to have a realistic plan, because those plans keep changing every time you achieve success in these small steps, or you face some kind of disappointments. So the realistic dream or realistic plan is very, very important to reach that ultimate goal of yours. For us as an athlete, I think for every sports person as an athlete, you can measure your performance through a record. You want to break that particular record, whether it's a national record, whether it's a state record, or whether. So we kind of measure ourselves along that path of breaking that record, how close we are to achieving that record. And knowing one's limitation, I think that is very important. Knowing one's limitation at that moment is very, very important at where you are. So in that point of your journey, at that point of your journey, where you are, so your ability to constantly plan and to review your own self, I think it's very important. You cannot wait for others to review it. You have to review yourself internally by a benchmark that you create for yourself and see, is this where I have achieved? This is what I have achieved. This is what is lacking. And once you analyze that, your life in this journey will be more enjoyable because you are learning, you are educating yourself, you know where exactly you stand. So planning means setting achievable targets to achieve the most important target in your life. And for this target to achieve, as I keep telling all my young friends, it's don't wait for luck. Many people come and tell many of us who have achieved in various fields, you are so lucky to have all this. But what exactly is luck? Can anybody define what luck is? Luck is purely when preparation meets opportunities. And for all of us, especially for you when you set out into the world, without preparation, you will not find yourself a space in this world. Even today, whichever path we take, whether as a student, whether as an athlete, whether as an administrator, whether as a banker that I was, whether it was in the movies that I did, for everything it is important that you prepare yourself. Whether I worked in the movies, even for me, working in a movie was something very new. It was a different language altogether. But the process was important. How I deliver my dialogues, though I didn't know the language, that was important. Those are the small things that matter. And for one thing that I would like to share with y'all, since you'll all know your favorite star, P.T. Usha, she was one of the best athletes Asia has ever produced till today. Asia has ever produced. So, as an athlete, when I was young, it was when Usha is on the field, it was always natural that Ashwini would come second, and I would come back happy with that. But until I realized that through a sports psychologist, that mental preparation is as important as physical practice. And for that, you need to be prepared. Very often, we all say a sound mind is found only in a sound body. But I think that is not right. I think this 2 years of this pandemic has made me realize that if you have a sound mind, your body is absolutely sound. And what is this mental preparation? Mental preparation is about mind over matter. As I said, once you've conceived what you want to do, you have the interest, the passion is flowing to take that interest along, then you prepare yourself mentally, because that is something for us as athletes. What we do is we are looking at our targets, and our target for me was not beating Usha. My target was the time that I set, the goal that I set for myself. And then you start working on it with positive assertions within yourself, visualizing achieving those targets on the field. So for all of you, unless you have that mental ability to process, keep thinking on the ultimate goal, keep thinking on the every small step that you will take, it's very, very important to prepare yourself mentally to achieve it, whichever path that you take. So it's not just your work that you do, but also mentally how you will handle it with the pros and cons is what you should also be able to do it. Only then you will be able to set out and have your wings flying outside into this world as you complete your course. And I think some of the things that I have learned is to move on. Very often we are obsessed by clinging on things. This is what I want to do. But life is a journey. So don't cling on to things that you feel, you need to keep working on it, keep working on it. And that's why I say be realistic. Because in this journey, you have to be aware, mentally prepared, physically active. And to do all of that, you should act not tomorrow, not yesterday, but right now. And that is the thing that is very important. How you do your things today, right now, what you listen, what you process in your mind, and how you act in the now, NOW, is very, very important for all young children. I also would like to say that for all of us, I think whether it's in classrooms, whether it is on the field, whether it is in corporate world, in whether is even it's at home, the very small things that matter at home. I think the greatest satisfaction is being able to achieve that small things that you would want to achieve, which you have set out to achieve. That is the greatest satisfaction in the work field, in on the play field. Achievement is the hallmark of personal satisfaction. How you achieve it is solely up to you. You have to, through action, you will automatically have people around you supporting you, and that is something that one needs to work on. The other thing is that I have come across in this journey is about relationships. I think it is very, very important. The relationship, the respect that you have at home with your parents, the respect that you have for your teachers, the respect that you have for your trainers, the respect that you have for the people that you take care of you, whether it is your homemaker, whether it's somebody who cleans up your house, being humble, being able to take all those relationships with you and the goodwill that you create is very important. You do not have to do things to please anybody. What you need to do is be yourself and be caring of the environment that you belong to. That is so important. Today, we don't see that kind of respect and that kind of relationships go very far today, unfortunately. And that is very, very key. Respecting your entire team, whether it's the team when you start out the journey till the end when you achieve, all those people makes the journey more memorable. So once you do that, and I think, as I said, to conclude, I don't know how much time I have because I've not been told what's the time that I can speak on. It's important.
You have a whole 1 hour.
Oh,
you have a whole 1 hour.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the other thing that I would, as a sports administrator, as I have come to also learn that you must dialogue less and debate less and have more dialogues. In which sense is communicating with everybody. Communication is key. How you communicate with what you want to do, how you communicate with yourself, with the team, with everybody around you, with your colleagues, with your friends. Everything makes a difference in life. So communication is very important. Believing in oneself, the ability to do is very important, because for all of us, we are born, we die one day, nobody knows, but that journey is very, very important. Pay attention to that journey, pay attention to those little journeys that you take in various phases of your life. And all young children, I would also like to say that, the pandemic has really brought the entire world to a standstill. But there is always a learning. Let us not crib about what has happened. The learning is we've spent enough time with our family. It took a pandemic for all of us to realize how much physical fitness, physical well-being is important. And that's why I said a sound mind is not just found in a sound body, but it is the vice versa. How sound you are in this kind of stage in your life where so much uncertainty prevails in a student's life, what is it that you can do to make it better? What is it that you can do to sustain this? One is to stop living in the fear of this pandemic. This is going to be part of our life for the next couple of years. It will be there in different mutations, different forms, but you cannot bring yourself to a standstill. There are things that you can do. There's enough time for you to really read, gather information, connect with people. Today, we live in a virtual world today. Spend time in building relationships at home, at your workplace, through friends. But above all, I think it is very, very, very important to be conscious about your mental and physical well-being. I say this, I stress upon this, physical fitness, whether you're young or old, is an important part of our well-being. Not all of y'all wants to be an international athlete. Not everybody can become the best architect. It's not about which field that you will excel in, but it is something that you must spend time, quality time, in ensuring that your physical well-being is taken care of. Today we live with all gadgets. Everybody is on the phone, and the thought process changes the more you are with your gadgets, because you are always consumed with, whether it's the social media, your views change. There is not a moment that you will actually sit back without any communication and reflect on yourself, reflect on your ability, reflect on things that you need to spend time on. That is because your journey begins now. Y'all are all at the threshold of achieving something big. It's not about extraordinary people achieving. All of us, including you, every single one of you who's watching me today, it's when ordinary people achieve extraordinary feat. And that extraordinary feat is achievable for all of us in our own measures, in our own ability. It is possible because God has given that inner strength to all of us. We just need to find it. And to be able to find that, we need to look within ourselves, spend time for yourself. So these are some things that I have learned, and then having started a school, I think for all young children, I see it amongst our student community here. When I look at my young students, when you are at a young age, you are gearing, you are so enthusiastic to take part in everything, you want to do well. But as you get into adolescence and you want to just shy away from these things, challenge is important. Challenging one's own self is important. Challenging every step that you go ahead to take is important. Taking risk in life is important. Why I say this is, when I started out to do movies, people wrote me off saying, oh, she's got into movies, so she won't come back into this field of sport. But I took it up as a challenge. I came back and I won 4 national medals in Calcutta. And that's the day I said, okay, no more. That's the challenge I took up when people wrote me off. Then when I got into the movie, they said, oh, she won't last in the movies, it won't do well, because I was never an actress. But I went on to become, to do 5, 6 movies and getting the, newcomer award from the Andhra Pradesh government and from Fine Arts in Chennai. So when I also started to think about building the school of ours, it was, people are always there. Just remember, people will always be there to put you down. But if you have that focus and you have the ability to pursue your dreams, irrespective of people who are there's going to be there all the time. Everywhere it's going to be there. But if you can believe in yourself, you will definitely be able to handle those challenges. But there will be disappointments along the way. There will be failures along the way. I started out as a young athlete. My first nationals was when I was about 12 years old. And I remember it was the first time I was representing the Karnataka state. And I took part in the 60 meters hurdles. And in the last hurdle, I was coming first and I fell in the last hurdle and lost the gold medal. And I cried so much. I was bruised up on my knee. And, the next day I had my 100 meters and I told my mom, don't worry, I will take up the next event and do my best. And as a 12-year-old child, I went on to win the first medal for Karnataka as a 12-year-old child, the first gold medal in 100 meters. Though bruised, both my knees were bruised up, my arms were bruised up, but that's the kind of instinct that you should have. That's the kind of determination that you must have. Because if you have that determination, you're willing to give it 100%, don't worry about it. You will be able to handle those disappointments. It's just an event. Those failures are small events for you to achieve the larger picture. All right, students, this is what I want you to tell you, because this has been my life. And today when I work with young children, I see that it's important to keep driving these young children, because the support system, we work as a nucleus family, fathers, mothers, everybody working, and it becomes very important to infuse that kind of enthusiasm in every child, because every one of you are special. Every one of you have the ability to achieve whatever line you want to pursue and achieve that kind of success that you dream of. So just fly your wings. As my school motto is, go the distance, never look back, because life 99.9% is only the journey. 0.01% is the milestone. And those milestones can keep on happening in small parts, but the journey above all is what you need to enjoy. So thank you for having me, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Students, please keep on sending your queries to panel members, Professor Agalbi Vijayan and Dr. Radish Raghavan. Panel members, you can start asking questions to Honorable Chief Guest.
Thank you, Geetika Madam. Now I request the panel members, myself and Radish, to put across the questions. So before that, I would request the participants to put across your questions in the chat box. Those who are online and others, those who are sitting in auditorium, may please raise your questions from there itself.
Please send your queries.
Ashwini madam.
Yes.
Madam, we have the first question coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is, who inspired you to choose sport as your career?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I always tell people my name Ashwini means a horse. It also means a star. So probably I was meant to run. It's something of a chance that happened because my parents, as I said earlier, mentioned we're never a sports person, but we come from a community, the Kodavas, who always, they say the sport is in their blood. So it just happened by chance. I was very, very fortunate that I had my first PE teacher when I was in the 5th grade, who was from Sri Lanka, give me my first spikes because we would run in those Bata white shoes or bare feet at that point in time. And she gave me my first spikes because we were coming first in school sports and all that. And I also had, when I was, in the journey, uh, greats of Indian athletics. I was to watch them, whether it was A.P. Ramaswamy, Dorothy Menezes. We were there when India's great athletes were training in the same arena. And I think I was very fortunate. So I would say my mother was my driving force, but I had my PE teachers and Mr. Mohinder Singh, who's no more, who bribed me with every chocolate that I ran. For every round that I ran. So he would inspire me to, collect more number of chocolates. So I would owe it to a number of people that have really created that interest for me. For my mother was the driving force, as I said, my PE teacher, Beatrice, who's no more, Mohinder Singh Gill, who's no more. So it was great to have many people who supported me.
Thank you, madam.
Madam, we have another question from the undergraduates.
Yes.
And despite all the hardships and the toil, we as a nation still lack in the number of medals being won. What is your take on that?
India is not per se a sporting nation. We are evolving into becoming a sporting nation because we are a very complex nation with the kind of population that we have. Sport is not a priority. We have to take care of many other things. People have to take care of many other things. But then sport is growing today as an industry in our country. And I think by the time we, in the next 2 Olympics, we've already started winning in small measure. In our days, I'd like to share whether it was Usha. Usha ran at the 84 Olympics with no exposure whatsoever overseas. And when I took part in the 88 Olympics, we had no exposure of any competition overseas other than that 1 month of training in Germany. But today it has changed. So as I said, it's evolving. Today we have winners from wrestling, boxing coming up, archery coming up, across disciplines, shooting coming up. So we have across, and even our para athletes are doing very well. So it is evolving. It needs time, but for that, we need to have a very robust system. It's not just everybody plays a very important part in that. It's not just the Ministry of Sports, but right from institutions, how you groom a child at school level. Because I always believe that the grassroots level at school is very important for children to bring that love and to have that experience about sport. And unless we create the base of the pyramid large enough in our country, we will then see champions emerging out of choice and not chance. Today we have chance athletes coming up to the national level. But once we make it as a choice, that sport becomes a choice, only then, when the base of that pyramid is large enough, only then we will be able to see. So there is hope, but I think we need to go really a long distance to cover the entire nation and create that. Today, if you see, more number of sports persons come from rural India, because the drive and hunger among those children are far beyond what is available for city kids. And we need to actually demonstrate as a robust program for sports in all these rural areas.
Thank you, madam. Next, we have another question from Devika. And the question is, do you feel that the financial instability of a common man is stopping himself from choosing sport as a profession?
That's right in a way, because I think Deepika has really nailed that. Because today, as I said, sport is still evolving. Even when we talk about cricket, we know the kind of money cricketers make. But you must also understand that to get into a under 14 cricket team, there are lakhs of children waiting for it to happen. Right? So it is, we can talk about people, oh, he's making so much money and he is in this position. But to be able to get there is the step that one needs to take. And that is, your preparation will speak for itself, your action. We are in a nation today where we cannot write, when you fill in a form where it says profession, like other countries where you put tennis as your profession. We cannot put chess as our profession. We cannot put athletics as our profession. So for us, it's very important for all students, for every athlete and for every sporting, children who are at the national and international level, to pursue at least your basic education, because that is something that you will fall back on. And once you have that basic education, for an athlete, you never know when your journey will cut short for an injury or for any kind of, things that happen to your physical body. And for that, it is important that you have the education to fall back on. I'll give you a simple example. Is we were all called to public sector, whether it was banks or FCIs or, all public sector units were taking sportsmen during our time. And that's why you see from Usha to Shiny to myself, all of us were either in banks or FCI or because that gave us a sense of security. And but to be able to climb that ladder in those respective organizations, education becomes a key factor. So today we are still in a position where we cannot financially depend on the sport. But if you have the talent and you have the support and you believe that you can achieve it, you must go for it. Give that chance. Allow yourself to have that chance, because that regret that I didn't try should not be there in your life.
Dear MBA 20 from the Audi, the mic is on for you. Madam, we have another question from the undergraduates. What is it like the transition from an athlete to an administrator?
In India, it has been very difficult, because we all know how sport is managed in our country. It has been for the last 6-7 decades. Slowly it's changing, because it is one field, the sporting administration, which is run by every political party. People who, at least until recently, who were not connected with sport, would manage the affairs of sports persons, who would manage the affairs of sport in the respective state. It is only now the entry is very limited, especially women. I had to fight my way against a deputy CM to get to the sports admin. I'm a president of a district association. But it is, if you think, as I said, I don't want to compromise on the things that I am able to achieve or able to give a shot. I believe that if I have achieved something with people's admiration and adulation and people who have supported me, it becomes my responsibility to engage in that particular activity, in that sport. And for me, it was very, very important that I could give back to the sport that has given me all the other things that I have got. So for me, because I was working in a bank, I was a PR head, I was also, a sports officer managing. I've never worked as a banker per se in a branch, but I was into the administration field, and I have seen along how sporting administration was held. And I thought I could make a difference. Unfortunately, there are not many people, many women or many athletes coming to the forefront because they're so fed up of it. So it has been a huge challenge. I think that has been the toughest part in my journey, in various, whether it was from my childhood to, from school to becoming an athlete, to becoming a banker, to becoming a sports star, to becoming a cinema. Everything was much easier. The biggest and the most challenging job was to get through to sports administration.
Evidently, madam, there are really few women in sports administration. Can you explain what sort of administrative skills you would have honed during this tenure?
I think one is integrity. If you really believe you can make a difference, and if the intent of you getting involved in the administration is right, most often the intent is wrong. You want to be there to get that position, you want to be there to get something else. When the intent is wrong, then your integrity is questioned. So the intent is very important in whatever we do. And I don't think it's just about sports administration. For me, it was very clear. I have taken on, whether it was the national politicians, whether it was Arun Jaitley, whether it was Kalmadi, whether it is whoever it may be, whether it was my deputy CM from my own state. It didn't matter, because I would not bow down to doing in the manner to just please them. For me, the intent was very clear: to bring a change in the sporting environment, to bring the best. I, as an athlete, I don't want the young athletes today to go through a journey where I have gone through. We have traveled unreserved near the toilets, going up till Patiala, Delhi to Patiala, unreserved near the toilets, representing the country. I wouldn't want to see athletes going that way. You have to have pride in taking part for your state, for your institution, for your country, and you cannot be treated in that fashion. So today, when we have the means, and I think even today, I will not compromise on that. Though I'm a district president, I ensure that my athletes go, they have good AC rooms, they are provided for, they come back. It's not about how you treat people is important. And I will not allow anybody to treat me in any other way than what I deserve, because that is our right. So integrity and intent is very, very important.
Great, madam.
Thank you, madam. We have another question coming in. As an athlete, how do you look into the prospects of India in the upcoming Tokyo Olympics?
Well, I think there is a lot to hope for, especially in a situation that the whole world is facing. I feel sad for the people of Tokyo because, for Japan, because they're going through uncertain times, plus holding a mega event. But I think in India, the preparation is in its right path, I guess. How we will fare is a question mark, because how things will, once you reach the Olympic village, how you are able to train, whether the Indian team at the moment, the contingent, will be allowed to train, or whether they will be in quarantine. things are really uncertain. So, I mean, athletes are preparing themselves with a hope that they would, for me, it would be, I think if the Indian contingent can perform better than what they have got through qualifying for the Olympics, would be a great achievement. But there are sports like shooting that we need to look out. We need to look out for boxers. The young shooters are doing very well. In athletics per se, in my event, there would be maybe an outside chance, I would say, for Neeraj Chopra. And if Sri Kumar can do his long jump feat, if he can repeat that, I think within the first 6 is something that I'm looking at. But winning medals across, I think I would look at winning medal number. I wouldn't say which color the medal would be, but medals, I think we're looking at about 3 or 4.
Thank you, madam.
Madam, actually, we have an extra to a previous question. As you mentioned that the financial security with respect to the sporting events in our nation is pretty little. In view of that, do we need to have a balance between academics and sports during the school days?
Absolutely. And that's the reason I started the school in my hometown in Coog. Because I'm a kind of what do I say? I'm a product of a school games, a very robust school games. And I think Kerala is one of the states that has produced numerous young children into the national limelight is through a very robust program, because you'll have given so much importance to sport. Unfortunately, times have changed in our state today. Unfortunately, and it's very sad for me to say, there's not even one from the state who's representing at this Olympics. Not one hockey player, not one athlete. We had Puama, who's now injured. So we have not one. And it has always been, where Karnataka has always fielded some athlete or the other. So as I say, I'm a product of a school games. I'm a product of a very robust program. It is very important while every child experiences the competition of sports, because I believe that life's lesson cannot be taught within the 4 walls of the classroom. It is taught only through experiencing sport at its very basic level, because that's where leadership comes in, competition comes in, failures comes in, fellowship comes in, everything that is required in today's life comes in. And if we can set our targets to ensuring every child experiences that, it's only then you will see a nation that is capable of handling many other disasters.
Madam, let me ask you one more question from our student fraternity.
Yeah, sure.
Now it's the world of technologies, and we have a lot of technologies, analytics, and all playing crucial role in the field of sports as well. Now, where do we stand as a nation as far as technological impacts on sports, especially athletics?
No, I think across sport, that's where young children like you all should come in. Today, we are only outsourcing, whether you see every Indian team, whether it's from cricket to hockey to, every field, we are outsourcing people. We need to bring in technology. We need to bring, as the Prime Minister says, make in India. We need to have our own people in par with the rest of the world in technology. Technology, sports sciences, all play a very, very vital role today. But unfortunately, when we have so much of technology, if you see the Indian records, it takes 40 years, 30 years to be broken. And we measure the success or the journey of those performances as milestones. But Usha's record still holds. My state record still holds. Though we didn't have this technology, special dietitians at that point in time. We didn't know what sports science was. We came in an era where we just worked hard. We didn't look at monetary benefits. We just enjoyed it, and the rest followed. So technology today has become part of our lives. And I want young children like y'all to play an important role, because sports has so much to offer in terms of sporting and industry, sport environment, sports entertainment, sports marketing, sports sciences. So today's children, and I think our education system should really bring about sport as part of everyone's curriculum. Even at the college, we have the arts, commerce, and science stream. We don't have a sporting team. A sports department is important, because all this can be sports sciences can be come in, the commerce can have a sports department. So there's so many things that one can do. And I think it's very important to bring that kind of technology, the knowledge, so that we are self-sufficient and not dependent on anybody else.
Madam, we are closing into the time, but still we have questions pouring in. Let me ask you one more question from the MBA perspective. Though we have been able to market games like football, cricket, and likewise, but are we capable enough to market athletics in our nation?
We can do it. As you see what happens in, I don't know how many of y'all should go on to the YouTube and see how the US Olympic trials were conducted. It was conducted in a manner which was in par with the Olympic Games itself. So we are able to do it, provided you provide those quality kind of events, which engages participation, which engages spectators to come in. You create that hype. If you just compare what is happening with the Indian Olympic trials, does anybody in our country know there's an Indian Olympic trials going on? We don't even know. Did we know that Deepika Kumari just won a gold at one of the world champions? It wasn't shown. Yeah, so not many know it. As we speak, some trials are going on. It has to be conducted in a very professional manner where teams come along. It's important all athletes perform for spectators. Today, if you're watching the football, see the kind of crowd that comes in, whether it's tennis, now Wimbledon is happening. You perform better when there are spectators. And marketing is possible if you really know what, really. Kabaddi, for example, is a classic case. Kabaddi started with the league. It was, T20, of course, yes. Cricket, has enormous amount of money to shell out. Nobody imagined Kabaddi to be such a success. A sport that we have won only at the Asian level. And a sport that not many nations play. But it was marketed brilliantly. You kind of see the crowd and how many young children got the platform to actually excel. So it is possible. It is possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your inspiring words. Asha, ma'am, over to you.
Ashwini, thank you so much. Ashwini, we have our facilitator, Ravi DC. So he just wanted to say hello to you.
Yeah, hello, Ms.Ashwini. This is Ravi DC here. I'm the promoter of the college. Actually, I'm really honored to have you actually for today's program. I'm really grateful for the same. And I'm sorry I can't on my camera because I'm traveling and I don't have the signals actually. I'm sorry. I don't.
I want to congratulate you. Asha has been speaking, such words of praises about you. It's been for you to be doing this, not just the seminar, but your contribution in the field of education and giving these young children that kind of atmosphere and environment to grow in is wonderful. So congratulations to you and your team in doing this.
Fantastic, actually, in all senses, actually. She has been a part of us for a long time, and we've been cheering.
Asha is a dear friend. She's such a go-getter. I think she's an inspiration to all the students over there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashwini.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
I do welcome to Parkam on one of these.
Most definitely, I will try and make it. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Down actually, you should come.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
It was an amazing session we had today. Now I welcome Coach Tracy Joseph to convey a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Coach Tracy Joseph, standing on behalf of DC School of Management and Technology, Vagam. Most Honorable Speaker, Ms.Ashwini Nachappa, respected Chief Facilitator, Sri Ravi DC, Dean of DC School of Management, Dean of DC School of Architecture, Director and Principal of DC School of Management, Principal of DC School of Architecture, respected Professor, faculty members, and my dear friends. I'm much obliged and happy to deliver this vote of thanks on this great evening, which was made worthy by the resourceful words of Ms. Ashwini Nachappa. Once again, I thank Ms. Ashwini Nachappa on behalf of DCS family for her dignified words and thoughts, which were indeed worthy for us. Also, I take this opportunity to thank our Chief Facilitator, who have been a beacon in leading and guiding all DCNs right its inception in 2002 till where it stands today. On behalf of DCSMAT, I thank respected Dr. N. Ramachandran, Dean DC School of Management, Architect Suresh TM, Dean DC School of Architecture, Dr. Srigant SV, Director and Principal of DC School of Management, Architect Shankar Kandadai, Principal of DC School of Architecture, Mrs. Asha Fen, Corporate Relations Manager and Student Counselor, Reno Matthew, Coordinator of Webinar 2.0, and all other distinguished faculty members of DC family for organizing this wonderful and inspirational webinar for us. And the champions of the sessions, I thank my fellow DCNs for being active listeners and good questioners. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.